Hello, and welcome to today's episode. If you've already heard the intro to the Proverbs, then just skip ahead about 8 minutes or so. Otherwise, the Bible is referred to as the living Word of God. It isn't a book that is meant simply to be read. It is a perspective-altering substance that is meant to be ingested and absorbed into you. And when it becomes a part of you, it changes you. And that is exactly what it is supposed to do. A proverb is an illustrated piece of wisdom. But the funny thing about wisdom is that it can seem so obvious that it is easy to believe that it didn't actually need to be said at all. That is only because you have already been exposed to it by that point. If you just stop and look around at the people who haven't heard it yet, it doesn't exactly seem obvious to them. That is the impressive nature of wisdom. Like a brilliant piece of music, you sense where it is going. But that doesn't actually mean that you could have composed it. Its genius is in allowing the recipient to organically feel as though this amazing thing originated within them, kind of like the movie Inception. This is my own translated paraphrase of the Proverbs, which were originally written by Solomon. And just to quickly summarize, the focus of a translation is on the detailed accuracy of each individual word. But sometimes the broader picture is not conveyed very clearly as a result. The focus of a paraphrase is on painting that big picture, but it often loses the accuracy of the finer details. Both of these are useful as long as you understand which is which and what the disadvantages to each approach are. So it should be noted that any paraphrase is an individual's interpretation of the underlying idea. So a paraphrase is a lot more subjective than a translation is, and that makes it much more susceptible to interpretations that are way off the mark of the original intent. That is why I recommend at least using both an accurate translation, like the New American Standard, and a responsible paraphrase. But I would be leaving you exposed if I didn't warn you to beware of the irresponsible paraphrases out there, the ones that masquerade as the Word of God, with subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, differences to what is actually being said. One of Satan's favorite tricks in the Bible when it comes to weaponizing Scripture, ironically enough. To provide a brief example for you, if I were to read a verse from the Psalms that described the kind of daughter that everyone would hope for as being a strong, beautifully carved, polished pillar that holds up a palace temple, but the paraphrase told you that an admirable daughter is actually like a wildflower in the fields, that is not a paraphrase. That is making up your own ideas and selling them as the Word of God, even though that is not what He said. Likewise, if I read a verse to you that described godly people taking a sword into their hand to execute justice in the land of ancient Israel, and the paraphrase tells you that those godly people did a sword dance to performatively demonstrate justice. That is not what the real text says. That is a very different rewrite, and one that is no longer being honest with its readers. If another passage describes someone being beaten up, specifically being punched in the mouth, and a paraphrase says that he was gagged, Those are not actually the same thing. Just ask anyone who has ever been beaten up. That is not a paraphrase. That is someone overstepping and arrogantly trying to polish up God's embarrassing edges for him in order to make him as presentable as their beliefs are. Once anyone feels entitled to do that with the Word of God, they are actually just writing the word of Billy Bob, while also hijacking some undue legitimacy for their own ideas by calling their own ideas the Word of God, which comes across as being much more impressive than the truth about their own very human words. But impressive sounding or not, that is no more honest than Hannibal Lecter wearing around the security guard's face. Now, to be entirely upfront and responsible with you, having already worked through the Psalms, you should know that my method through the first half of that book was a strict paraphrase. It was based entirely on compiling other English translations and paraphrases and interpreting them together as best I could. And as a result, there were places where I got way off the mark. By the third quarter of the Psalms, I was looking at some of the main words in the original Hebrew and continuing to heavily paraphrase the rest. By the last quarter of that book, I was translating all of the words and then paraphrasing what I had found as honestly as I could, based on the truest translation that I could create from my understanding of the original Hebrew words. But the final point that I want to make clear is that everything loses something in translation. You often have to choose between picking a word that overlaps more than any other single word would, while sacrificing the rest of the picture, or you end up with an extremely wordy translation that doesn't flow as well as it does in the original. That trade-off is clearly not for everyone. But the truth is that there are already so many paraphrases out there for the people who want the filtered, boiled-down, concentrated version of the Bible that it doesn't make sense for me to choose that as my priority here. And I am not denying that concise simplicity has amazing utility. It certainly does. And if that is what you are looking for right now, then there are already several versions out there to suit your preferred purpose in this moment. For the other people who want a deeper dive and a wider perspective to draw from as they try to understand the scriptures more fully, some amount of crisp directness will have to be sacrificed in exchange for seeing the broader web of context. But hopefully, this attempt to contribute something different to the mix, however wordy, will provide an additional tool to the existing ones and add another dimension to the way that you experience these amazing texts. Proverbs 3, Part C, verses 27 through 35. Don't withhold good. Don't withhold what is right, specifically something that has a life-giving purpose, from those who have earned it. Do not deny its legitimate owners what is rightfully theirs when it is within the control of your own agency to act, because it is in your hands. Your hand holds the thing that belongs to them. This admonishment is about a moral duty to pay the wages that someone is entitled to, the ones that you agreed to. It is not about a voluntary act of charity, at least not in this verse. They are your neighbor, and you have a communal relationship, so don't tell them, not right now. Walk away for the time being, and come back again another time. I'll give it to you in the future. Tomorrow, maybe. When you have it right there with you, in your possession, and at your disposal right now. Don't calculatingly plot harm, injury, misery, or anything that is bad in any way against your neighbor while he lives securely beside you in trust, believing that his safety is not at risk with you. Don't quarrel with, fight, dispute, or litigate a complaint against a man or with all of earthling mankind for no purpose, on illusionary grounds that are empty, if he has not harmed you. Do not behave that way just to be spoiling for a fight. Don't even envy the man whose identity centers around embodying violence, cruelty, brutality, lies, and malicious theft, all forms of wrongdoing to others in the most unjust nature possible. That word is Hamas. And do not devote your zeal to him or to his example. Don't select any of his paths, conduct, or outcomes when you are deciding and voting on your own preferences. Reject them all, without exception, because the twisted and devious are an actual abomination to Yahweh, the existing of all existence. He detests them. They are taboo. They are disgusting, revolting, and repulsive to him. But he is intimate with those who aim right and up with integrity from a straightforward and level approach. Those people are his inner circle. He shares his personal advice, his mysteries, and his purposes with them. Yahweh's curse, a curse of powerless doom and ruin, is already inside the home of those who reject elevated integrity, while exemplifying self-centeredness, injustice, willful low aims, and a warped conscience as they revolt against God in their inability to learn. But he stoops down to generously favor and bless the simple but pleasant shelter, the humble abode of a shepherd's sanctuary out in the pasture, of those who take responsibility for embodying and conforming to his standards of integrity, and who pursue justice and charity as he defines it. Truly, he cynically derides those who themselves cynically deride, and he belittles the belittlers with a dose of their own mocking contempt and self-impressed scorn. But he gives favor, grace, charm, beauty, attractiveness, approval, and generous goodwill to the humble, to those who possess a quiet, gentle strength that is in check, as opposed to having a loud, abrasive ego. Those who question and dig for insight and then skillfully apply their insight to living well, they will inherit, receive, and possess a glory and a respect that has substance and weight to it. But dumb brutes are lifted up only as conspicuous displays of embarrassing shame. And when fools are promoted and elevated by others, it only ever results in infamous levels of humiliation for all involved. I pray that whatever voice God might choose to give me in this world, he would also give me the words that I should use it for. These words have meaning for me, and if they had some meaning for you as well, then I am truly grateful that we have both been given a gift from above, and from each other. Have a good day out there, my friends.